All right, all right, all right. Welcome to this episode, a very special episode of Warrior Week Parables from the Pit. My guest, a very unique and numero uno guest of Parables from the Pit. It's Mike Isom. Mike Isom, welcome to the podcast, man.
Sam, thank you. Happy to be here.
So, Mike Isom is warrior number one. We're going to talk about that. The foundation of Warrior, the first client of Warrior, and how this thing started with Mike and Garrett, and up to now. Mike just finished a workshop with Garrett yesterday, and we're back at it at 6 a.m. again. This is not usual for us, but hey, we do what is required. So, Mike, why don't we why don't we roll back and we kind of talk about it's going to be a really good podcast because it's going to be a historic podcast, and we have about 2,000 to 3,000 guys that listen to the podcast. It's not really popular, but it's significant, right? So that's the audience you're talking to, and it's all dudes. So
Nice.
a lot of guys have heard, how this warrior thing started. Obviously, you've been the witness of it. Talk to me about how long you knew Garrett before, and what kind of started Warrior.
Yeah. Well, I've known Garrett since 2004 when he was in the mortgage industry. He talks about being in the mortgage industry, and he was in Las Vegas, Nevada. I lived in southern Utah. I still live in southern Utah, St. George. And I would drive from St. George down to Las Vegas, about a 2-hour drive. And I would meet with Garrett. I would meet with his clients in the mortgages that he sold mortgages to, and I would do their financial planning.
Okay.
And so I remember Garrett in the suit and tie and his mortgage banking days. And we started that relationship off and worked together for a couple of years. And then he was shutting things down in the mortgage industry, and I was going through my pit at the time. And we stayed in contact with each other. In fact, I went to a class in 2009 called Awaken Soul Purpose Intensive that he had put on. And that was a great class. I have my journal, a little green journal from that class. And he was going through his shit. He was searching for things. I was going through my shit, searching for things. And we had a great experience. And then it was a video in 2012 that my wife Wendy and I watched of Garrett in his pink shirt, his very first video that he did on Wake Up Warrior. Just like many of you in the audience, I'm sure most of the men that come through Warrior get introduced to Warrior, watch a video. They watch a video of you or Garrett or of something to that sort. And well, it was no different for me. I watched that video and I said to my wife, Garrett is speaking to me. I don't know how many men have said that, Sam, but Garrett is speaking to me. And he was speaking to me. He was talking to me along with a lot of other men. And just like the men or whoever else is listening to this podcast right now, you feel like they're speaking to you. And so I signed up right away. There was myself and 4 other men. There were 5 of us total. And 7 years ago, Sam, Warrior was Garrett White. There was nothing else. There was nobody else. There was no other infrastructure. It was Garrett White. He was making things happen by himself. He was shooting the videos and doing the coaching, the training, the sales, and everything just by himself at that time.
It's amazing. So just that piece, if we roll back, I had over maybe, I would estimate for the past 6 years, 1,200 plus conversations over the phone. Okay. I can sit here with confidence and certainty and tell you 90% of the conversation, especially at the beginning of the conversation, people will say, I was sitting there and as if it was Garrett was talking to me, which is the same thing that the first guy that got introduced to the video said. And like, in fact, the last podcast, the guy was interested. He goes, man, I was sitting there and it felt like Garrett actually came in and like cut my head off, took my brain out and kind of was reading what was written in my head. I'm like, okay, that's a good visual, bro. But but it's true because he started talking about a common pain. He started talking about because it resonated with me as well 6 years ago, and it was just the language, the way he was communicated, and his appearance. Meaning that his appearance, he wasn't trying to be the shiny object that was preaching. Like, remember the green hat? He had the green hat backwards, and the fucking come out of the CrossFit thing. He's yelling, and there's snot on his face. I'm sitting there like, I like this guy. This guy's a ugly motherfucker. But yeah, I can relate to that. Like, that's pretty, like, it's real. And that's the initial hook. Just the fact that there is no show. There is no, and that conversation sits with you. So, you come through the program and you see the program evolve. You see yourself evolving inside of that for years. Talk to us about um, like at the end of the day, this is parable from the pit, and you've gone through multiple pits and up and downs. And what crushed your soul in your initial pit when you actually met with Garrett, and like what as a man, as a married businessman, what kind of pressure were you carrying that like there was really nowhere to just talk about it. Even if you would talk about it, it just didn't feel that you did talk about it. It was so much pressure that you just hold inside and like, okay, I'll take care of it. This self dialogue that says, I will take care of it. I will take care of it until things fucking like just crash down and you realize that, okay, well, I just need some guidance. Like I need some guidance to get back on the way I used to think.
Yeah. One of the first things that I remember 7 years ago, Sam, when it was Garrett and I and 4 other men. So there were the 6 of us total on these calls. And Warrior started out not with a Warrior Week, but it was a weekly call that we got on together. And we started going through body, being, balance, and business. And one of the very first things that I remember feeling for the very first time in my life that I was not alone. Because prior to that, Sam, and now today, there's tens of thousands of men that I know of that have experienced the Warrior's Way in some form or another.
Yes.
And so now for me today, as I go throughout my life, I know it's not just me. I know it's you. And I know it's you and you and you and you and you. And everyone listening to this call, any married businessman with kids, I know has experienced something similar to me. And so getting on these calls and starting to work through this and talk about our pits, that revelation, and maybe you listening to this right now on this podcast, you're getting this revelation or you felt this before, that you're not alone. You're not the only one that has experienced this or will experience this. And so for me, like feeling like I'm not on this island all by myself was a huge revelation for me, Sam.
Yeah.
Like it gave me this, even though I was going through some really difficult stuff that I'm happy to talk about and visit about, especially Warrior Week 40, when
sure.
Caden came down into the water.
We'll talk about that later.
Oh, my hell.
Yeah.
But in the pit, like I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only man on this earth experiencing what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And so when I found out that I wasn't the only man out there, like it gave me this comfort and it gave me this permission to actually go into the pit, to examine it, to look at it with other men that were experiencing something similar. And even to this day, Sam, when you and Garrett are on stage and you're leading, hundreds or over 1,000 men at a time in a room, which I've experienced many times with you and with Garrett, and both of you will do this. You'll stop after a man gets up and he shares something that he has experienced. You'll stop, and the man's still standing there. And I felt this day one. I continue to feel it to this day. And you'll ask the audience, and Garrett will also, who else in this room has experienced this or something similar to it? 90% of the room raises their hands, and the other 10% are just fucking scared to raise their hand,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So in some form or another, we've all experienced this. So you're not alone. I'm not alone. You're not alone, Sam. None of us are alone in this, and we've all experienced something similar. And so for me, that was a huge relief. It gave me permission to actually talk about it, to examine it, to look at it. And then as a result of that awareness around it, I'm now able to do something about it.
Absolutely. And it's what you brought out is so true, because at the end of all this, like the pain that kind of connects all of us is this feeling alone. And you often heard me say it, and we've communicated over and over around this, is like, if you don't know another man's pain, you truly don't know him, right? And so there's two kind of guys that connects the pain. There's a guy that actually goes through a drama or a trauma or a situation that is taking place in his life and is literally causing pain and stress for him, and that pain and stress sometimes, or most of the time, just expands in all the other areas, right? And it could get you to a place where you just feel paralyzed, like you're in a place where, like, I just don't know what else to do, right? So that's one extreme. The other extreme and this is kind of me walking into Warrior Week 6 years ago. It's a guy that's kind of numb to this feeling I am alone. It's like, well, I don't particularly see any pain in my life because of my own fucking opinion. So I don't really see any pain. Do I want to get better? Yes, of course I need to get better because there's the pain of comparison that takes place behind in your mind. But like you don't acknowledge it. You kind of like erase that with hope. So you're constantly comparing yourself financially, sexually, whatever, man. You're constantly comparing yourself with this other image of a man that you want to be, that you see in others, and yet you don't give in to that pain because now you like wash it off with some hope. Like yeah, I'll get there. I hope I get there. And so it kind of makes you numb and blind, and it's like the nice guy, right? Until like you're put in a corner and you're like, okay, let's examine further how the fuck you feel. And you go, huh? Feel? Like, what do you mean? Like, besides sad, mad, angry, and happy, like, there's a whole full spectrum of feeling. Like that circle there, over there on that sheet, there's an entire circle of feelings. I mean, just like this is a work that was done by someone. And in fact, I saw it on a table. I was like, this is interesting. He goes, yeah, coach, I'm looking for the feelings that I said, that's not on the paper you should look. You should look here. So I'm going to take that paper because it's interesting. But you go to your heart and you start practicing, because that's what I did. And my Warrior Week kind of allowed me to explore further. And this is where I realized, I'm like, how the fuck could I sit here and say, like, my marriage is good when the only person, the only judge, or if the only person in charge of this is me, and I don't allow any other perspective? Because I was the guy who was like, listen, man, like, it's my wife. Shh, everything is between us, and I'm like, nobody else is supposed to kind of help me with this, right? My dad gave me life lessons, but he never like got into my marriage and start giving me like structures and going. And like, here I am listening to, are you taking her on date nights weekly? The answer is no.
Yeah.
Are you sending messages to her daily? No. Are you listening? I think I listen. Okay. What do you mean? You're like, give me an example of listen. And that gets immediately smashed down to, obviously that's not listening. That's tolerating, or so there are so many small things, so many answers to questions that I thought I had because it was formulated in my mind. But then once that's exposed, then you're left in that place and like, yeah, I do kind of feel alone because I've been operating alone all this time until I got exposed to my pattern and behaviors. So being alone fucking resonates from now on, because in the past it was like, oh, if you're alone, like that means you have problems, or no. And so a lot of dudes are just like in a place where they're not in an immediate pain. They'll go and it's not like they're intentionally masking it up, but they'll like brush it over of saying like, no, I'm not alone. I don't feel alone. And the reality is, I was that guy that said that I wasn't alone. But when I looked deeper, I figured out that, yeah, I was absolutely alone. I was absolutely alone. But I was frozen. I didn't know what to do, right? So then you just pretend to be the nice guy. And you're like, everything is good. Happy panda fucking type of guy going through life. But in the presence of pain, truly in the presence of pain, power disappears. Like, this concept that power is found on the other side of the pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. But it's really nice. But in the presence of pain, like, you're just paralyzed.
Yeah. Yep.
So obviously you've gone through a lot in your life, and initial pain brought you inside of Warrior. You worked on that. I've been a witness of that personally in the past 6 years. I've been a witness of one fucking thing, is that you constantly show up. That's all. Like, if you ask what is the best quality of Michael Isom among so many, but inside of the practice of the Warrior, if you want, is that Mike shows up. That's it. Like, Mike shows up, he's present, and you have been fucking showing up. Look at you. It's like 7 years, and you showed up yesterday. You make these trips. You make these long trips. You get in your car. You come here. You have a purpose. You have an objective when you come here. It is truly a retreat from everywhere else, and you gain a new perspective based on your ability to show up, right? And nobody gives you the perspective. Nobody says, "Oh, hey, do this and do that." Like at the level that you're operating, how your family, how your business, and everything, your body, your spirituality, how everything is running, is like for you is perspective. So you say, why, Mike, you show up? Well, number one, I think it's this whole concept of brotherhood. Yeah, I want to tap into a flow where I don't feel alone. Anytime, anywhere, I'll do that. And number two is like, I just want to be in a place where I can gain a new perspective.
Yeah.
And that's one of your things, right? New perspective allows you to take new action. You constantly say that, and we'll talk about the we're talking about the amazing strategy that you have put on, and many of us are part of that, and many others are becoming part of that. We're talking about specifically the Vault strategy and AIS, and how that is empowering so many of us, right, with certainty. Throughout this process, and came in an opportunity to come back to Warrior Week. And talk to me about your decision to choose to come back to Warrior Week, and perhaps maybe a dilemma that you had back and forth. Do I need it? Do I don't need it? Why would I invest a week of my time? And so talk to me about that process.
Yeah, Sam, this decision to come back to Warrior Week was a decision about 2.5 years ago. And it was offered as part of a certified training program that you and Garrett had come out with Warrior, which is, hey, if it's been a while since you've been through a Warrior Week, we want you to come back through Warrior Week and experience the new Warrior Week. And experience it for yourself, but experience it to be able to assist and lead and guide other men, which is you must first learn and then live it and then lead it in some way. And so I had this desire. My initial desire when that was offered was, hey, I want to have this in my life at a deeper level, whether I'm going to go out and coach or lead other men directly through an experience called Warrior Week or not. I want to continue to have this deep dive into the doctrine and to be able to live it to a greater degree in my own life. Therefore, I'm going to sign up for the certified trainer. I'm going to go through the course, which required me to go through the Warrior Week and experience it again. And Sam, it was Warrior Week 40. It was September 2 years ago, 2017, that I went through Warrior Week 40. But I had assisted in training for Warrior Week 33 and Warrior Week 35. So I knew what was coming. I knew where I was going and what I was going to experience. Because it was just within the year prior to that, I had assisted you and the other coaches in leading other men through 2 other Warrior Weeks.
Yes.
Leading up to that. So I knew what was coming, and I still signed up for it. Now, in saying I knew what was coming, I really didn't know exactly what was coming for me because of the special experience that I had. But I continue to show up. You talked about me continuing to show up, and I've been here since day one, as you acknowledged, and I show up because of the results in my life, and I show up because I have a story that's working. So for me, measurement is working or not working. Is it moving me closer to happiness or further away? That's my measurement more than it's right or wrong.
Right.
It's either working or not working. Warrior works because of the results in my life and the lives of those around me. And so I show up because I want to be reminded and I want to remind.
Yes.
I want to be reminded so I continue to have the results in my life. And I want to remind other men so they have the results in their life. But when I'm reminding someone else, I'm benefiting more.
Yes.
Just like the coaching that you do, Sam, the level that you coach, you remind yourself. So this decision of coming back through Warrior Week, again, for me, was a decision to cement it even more into my life.
Absolutely. You brought up a very, very important point, and that was just this walk towards happiness and what we call the pursuit of happiness, and which you can't call happiness, because if you call it happiness, then you've arrived, and that means, okay, what else do I go there? If I've arrived at happiness, then what's after happiness? So it has to be a pursuit of happiness, because in the process, then you're happy that you're pursuing happiness. That's the whole point. And I'm so glad that at WarriorCon 3 we were able to together we were able forever to demonstrate this pursuit of happiness in a physical manifestation. So WarriorCon 3, I have a guy that comes on stage, a surgeon that comes on stage, Mike, this other surgeon comes on stage, and he's going through a live interview, and at one point, uh, the pursuit of happiness concept come in. Or I don't know, I asked you a question, and you brought up exactly this point, and then I put you there. He's on the stage.
I
I
remember
put you
that.
there, and
Yep.
you were happiness,
Yep.
and the entire hour interview and the question and the answers, he got up from his chair and started walking slowly and slowly. So he's coming towards happiness, right?
Yeah.
And then like literally he is this much away from it, and he kind of self-sabotage himself and stuck in a place that is not worth it to get close to it, right? And so he found his reason why he wanted to come to work. But it's an hour process. You're standing there, he's walking, and it's a physical manifestation how all of us are on this pursuit of happiness, and how paralyzing stories can, like, when we're like just 2 feet away from it, getting closer to it so we can actually feel it. Because most of our life we're running for it, running. I gotta make certain amount of dollars so that I gotta be at home. Like I gotta build a family. I gotta do this. As a man, you keep building, and once you come close to it, we have these stories that prevent us to be in that space, in proximity of happiness, not arriving, but in proximity. And that's where he kind of fucked himself, in the proximity with these stories. He had nothing anymore, and like. So that footage is actually it's captured. I think some of it is on YouTube, and it's the best example of sitting down with someone and say, okay, here's what happens to a man in his stories when he's on a pursuit of happiness. And to be able to deal with the stories in one way or another, maybe it's through Warrior's Way, maybe it's in church, maybe it's in another way. Like there are many ways to the way, but to find your way to get closer in proximity to happiness, that's what happiness is, to be in proximity of that on the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
So going back to Warrior Week 40, yeah, you've assisted 2 of those. You know exactly what's coming up. You've been part of it as an instructor, and as a coach, you've had impact on people's life, and you're humble enough to come to the process. And we go in, and by that time, Caden, your son, has been working with us almost like 8 months, and he was working as part of Warrior Week team, and he was creating all these amazing footages and videos for the Man of Warrior Week. Till this day, everybody's watching these videos. He's created a piece of it's an art that is created forever that reminds them of the work that was done. People don't hold on to Warrior Week, but they hold on to the man they've become, and they can always go back and say, yeah, a lot of it originated from that point where I changed my perspective, where I realized something. And to be reminded of what they went through these movies is just like, dude, every time these guys watch it, it's like there's a positive karma that's been deposited in the Cadence Bank for the impact that he has on thousands of family, right? And generations from now. Oh, my dad went through this thing. You got kids watching their dads 10 years back because of the movies and the footages and the way it was all put together. Truly talented. And hey, he didn't know he had all this talent inside of it. Yeah. Like I remember I think it was Warrior Week 35, or he was with you in the back, and you're like, Garrett's 35. Like, yeah, and Garrett is like, okay, bring him in, and he was all excited to know what. And he did all the Warrior X movies, which was pretty intense. And after that, like Warrior Week was just a longer version, but he already knew what to produce. And so he did great work. He was there at Warrior Week 40 to capture the footage of Warrior Week 40. And the first night, obviously, it's a pretty fucking serious night. We'll go to the pit, and it happens in a remote location. And for some reason or other, like, he was told not to be in presence. We didn't need to film that. He didn't need to get involved. And for somehow, it was Caden. It was, God, it needed to happen. You name it. He got into your pit a little bit, right? Which is a very unique thing, and a story to be told for years.
Because it had never happened before, and to my knowledge, it has not happened since then.
No, never.
Where a man is going through a warrior week, and that first night, as you talked about, going into his pit, the deepest, darkest part of his life, to go into it, to be able to receive a gift and some revelation from that. And you have to go there and experience that pain and that feeling to be able to get the revelation and the guidance from it. And I knew this. And I have my son there.
Without knowing.
My 18-year-old son that I respect and love. And I'm going into this, and he's behind the camera experiencing this from all the other men, but especially his dad. And I'm there, and he's there. And again, to this day, I don't know of anybody else that has had their son there and experienced this.
Yeah, no one. I mean, not only your son or anybody else. Like when a man goes in his pit, he goes to his pit alone, right? Caden has his own pit. I have my pit. My son has his own pit. Our wives have their own pit. They don't, like, when you go in it, you don't drag somebody else because, heck, you don't know if you'll be able to bring him back.
Well, and Sam, so this was just over 2 years ago. So I'd been in Warrior for 5 years. I'd gone to my pit many times, and I'd examined it, and I extracted the gifts from that for my own life, the lessons for me to apply moving forward for myself.
Yes.
I do it first for myself, knowing full well that if I do it for myself, I have more to offer to those around me.
Yes.
So I'm there. I'm going through it again. But I'm going through it, Sam, and I'm like, man, what am I going to talk about? I've done so much work, so much introspection, and I'm going through this again. So I was going into that Warrior Week, Sam, with what more can I work on? What deeper level can I go to for myself to benefit? What lessons can I take from this? And that was my mindset going into it that night, going into the pit.
And again, no one knew that Caden somehow, somewhere, find himself in there, and because obviously that's not a practice that we have to put family members or anybody that, like, it's a man's pit, nobody else. Then we're in the fucking middle of the water. You're going through it, and it's the environment is so fucking intense, and to see your own son in a physical form show up there with tears in his eyes, sadness or madness, and then Garrett, me, and it's just like now you're in a state of mind where you're ready to release, and you cannot comprehend what the fuck is going on. Is this real? Is this happening? Am I fucking dreaming? Like what? And then so it was a shocker that night. You spent a lot of time talking with him. And the next morning or two, and just the aftershock of that. But then throughout the week, as you started looking into this and say, okay, like, why did this happen?
Yeah, Sam, it was one of the most beautiful gifts. If I were to take the top 5 gifts, and there are hundreds of gifts that I've received over the 7 years of being part of Wake Up Warrior and living it in my life and applying it in my life. But this is one of the top 5 gifts that I've received personally as a result. I'm in the water. You're challenging me to go deeper. I'm down in the water, facing the water. I come up out of the water. You're having me look in the water to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. A few men are going through and experiencing it. I'm still in the water. I come up out of the water. I'm waist deep in water. And I come up out of the water like the 3rd or 4th time, and I find Caden right in front of me. And he's got these massive alligator tears in his eyes. And I know, Sam, you're right there next to him, and Coach Jesse was on the other side. And I remember looking back towards the beach, and I saw Garrett over there on the shore with some of the certified trainers that were witnessing this. And you were leading and guiding this experience, totally trusting the process in this experience, because, man, I was livid mad at first. But I opened my eyes. There's Caden there with tears in his eyes. And he says to me, "Why did you leave us? Why did you leave us?" And I first looked at you, and I was furious. My first thought was, I've been set up.
Set up.
I'm going to expose Warrior. This is a fucking joke. This is a lie. I can't trust Warrior or the process. This is all going through my mind just within seconds. All of this was rapidly firing through my mind. And then I started stacking it, and I couldn't get past Release the Rage at first, but I looked back over at Caden. He had these big alligator tears in his eyes. And in that moment, I knew that there was an experience that could happen. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. I was trusting the process. I knew your heart. I knew that I could trust your heart, Garrett's, Coach Jesse. I knew that I could trust your heart. And so what developed from that was, and to back up, gentlemen, so this was 2 years ago, for those of you listening, 2017. In 2010, the fall of 2010, my wife, Wendy, and I separated for 2.5 months. And we didn't tell our kids. We made a decision as a married couple not to tell our kids why. They were younger. Caden was like 10 years old. And we made a decision not to tell them why we were separating, right? We make this decision as parents all the time of what we tell our kids and what we don't. We made a decision not to. But Caden knew, Sam. Caden knew. And I went through the rest of that Warrior Week, extracting the lessons from that experience. Caden and I had an amazing time together. And that Saturday morning, it concluded and we graduated that Friday night. That Saturday morning, Caden and I met together for breakfast here in Southern California. And then he was going to take me to the airport and I was going to fly back home. And we met and we had breakfast. And Caden, Sam, is the one that came up with the idea of, what if we were to spend, so this was September and Warrior Con was coming in about 3 months.
Yeah.
And he said, what if we were to spend each week together and extract the lessons from this experience and then present from stage lessons from the pit between a father and son? And I'm like, for sure, yeah. So we text Garrett right away and ask him. He's like, well, hell yeah, for sure. And so that experience, week after week of extracting the lessons, and one of the most powerful lessons that came from that was from Caden. And it was the lesson of our kids, when we have shit going on, positive, good, bad, whatever we have going on, they're always watching. Our kids are always watching. Caden, my wife Wendy and I didn't give him nor our daughter the credit that they knew what the hell was going on. We acted like they didn't. We could hide it from them. They know. They're always watching, right? You think back about our age when we were younger, we knew what the hell was going on.
Exactly.
And we think about our kids today, oh, no, they don't know. We can hide this from them. Bullshit. They know. Caden knew.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Caden had been carrying that from 2010 to 2017, that he had been carrying. He didn't trust me, Sam. I didn't know it. I'd been doing this work for 5 years in Warrior, and I didn't know that deep down Caden didn't trust me until that moment in the pit when he confronted me, and it came to the surface. And so one of the special gifts for me was that was exposed, that we could go there, that we could work on it together, that we could extract the lessons and apply it from that time forward in our life. And then Caden and I were able to stand on stage and share that with over 700 men, I believe, were at that Warrior Con.
in a polo.
Yeah, exactly. And it was an incredible experience to be on that stage to share these lessons with everything, with my son and I presenting from stage. And if you remember him being up there, Sam, he was confident. Here's my wife and I's 18-year-old son standing on stage, and he's presenting in front of over 700 men this deep emotional experience. And I couldn't have been more proud of him and that experience that we had together to be able to bond. And for those of you listening that have kids, to know that your kids trust you and that you can trust them is a special, special experience.
And then let the truth be said that when we are raising our children, whether we decide to not tell them something or hide stuff or not put it in a verbal language, there are in our field, there's a small unified field. It's called your house. It's called your family. In that field, energetically, they feel so if you're certain, you'll transfer that certainty indirectly without opening your fucking mouth to your kids. If you feel guilt and shame constantly, they'll become that kind of person because they're in your field. If you constantly exercise confidence, beauty, they feel that. and they'll inherit that, right? And so the manifestation of that, because at the end of the day, we're not preachers. We notice what happened. Manifestation of that is what took place between you and Caden. Now, Caden, like, just sweet boy, intelligent, smart. I mean, he came to the house multiple times. I spent a lot of time with Caden because he's kind of working with me a lot for all the Warrior X's and as well as going into the Warrior Week. So the majority of time of Caden was spent with me and the team at Warrior Week. So we get to talk. We get to and so just to see the difference and the different the frequency of time where he would talk about you it was amazing to see that post that event. And again, he would always talk about you highly in the past, but the frequency of how much he would refer to you or talk to you, we would talk about the races, the cars, and then the dialogues and these are facts. The dialogues were not short; they were longer, right? And you could feel this sense of like being proud, of like, and because we talked a lot about the cars, right? The racing car. I was like, well, your dad's fucking nutcase, man. Is going 500 miles in the desert. It's like, dude, that's a lot of fucking balls. Like, I mean, you got guys that run marathons, and then you got guys that do 512 miles in a car for 12 hours nonstop, and you have to fucking piss in a tube. Like, what the fuck? And anyway, so we would just explore that. The point is the following. The point is, Caden completely fucking transformed. So the sweet little boy turned into a fucking like a man, and it was him also, because there was a lot of pain on you, but there was a lot of courage that was exercised from him to even face that.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's the one that went in there. He wanted a resolution. Like, he wanted a
Good
decision.
point. Yeah.
Like, there was no dilemma in his fucking head. It was like, listen, man, I'm going to deal with the facts.
Yeah.
I mean, from his point of view, he lived the fucking Warriors way to the highest level, which is like yes or no.
Yeah.
He eliminated the land of maybe for him. It was like, so now it's always yes, right? And that brought you guys so close. And the piece that was it wasn't love. It was the piece that was missing is just like full trust.
Yeah.
That I like after that, what else? I cannot, like, what else can, like, there's nothing worse than that I can hide from you. So,
Yeah.
There is no hiding.
One of the greatest sources of power for a married businessman with kids, as we know from living the Warrior's way, and that all of you have the opportunity to experience in your life, is the greatest source of power next to God is our wife and kids.
Yes.
And having that close relationship with Caden spent 2 years here, had an amazing experience, came back to Southern Utah, lives by himself, started his own company, Mosey Productions.
Nice.
Where he produces, and so on a daily basis, we're having conversations about business and life as a result of his experience here. He's 20 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And I absolutely love my friendship that I have with Caden, the deep bond and the connection and the trust, because now it's built on trust.
Yeah.
That I didn't have the example of growing up, and I didn't know how or what to do to create that from any other experiences that I had in my life until I started experiencing Warrior and living it in my own life.
And yeah, man, like, he has a full sleeve now. Like, he like to sit back and watch him in the videos when Jeremy came to your house. We had this case study videos that were done. Beautiful footage of you and your family and how emotional you got during that time, because just to have Jeremy come to your own house after a while and ask those questions, kind of live the answers with their presence, versus, because you've shared a lot, but they're not here, but in front of them. And just that was a very special moment. Like, it was captured on camera.
Beautiful.
And to see Caden and you're like, okay, like, this is not the same guy that it's now owning a business, that it's now has so much amount of certainty inside of him. And so the point of the conversation is the following, right? Like, truly at the bottom of it is that 2 weeks ago, I'm talking to one of our guys, and he's going through a situation with this woman that is with, and we're going back and forth. I spoke to her, and then he wanted me to speak to the son of this woman. He just wanted things to kind of work, and everybody was sharing. And him and her, they both said something that was, say, hey, listen, we're extremely vulnerable to each other, and we tell each other everything. So I'm like, okay, that's an awesome thing, right? So we go inside this conversation, and then there's frustration. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. Like, if you're so vulnerable, you tell each other, like, why is this happening? Why am I in the middle of this conversation? And it wasn't until I spoke to this 20-year-old son of the woman I'm like, what the fuck? He dropped the bomb, and they often have the answer. And he said the following. He said, like, I love my mom. I love, this guy. And he was super positive about the thing. And said, okay, if you would give me one thing, one observation about like something is not working, because obviously we're in a conversation, things are not working. From your perspective, man, what would that be? And he said something. He said, dude, he said something. I changed the game here at Warrior. Like, because in the past, if someone would tell us like we're very vulnerable and, they would even demonstrate it, they said, okay, that's great. That's a great. But he says something like completely give me a different. But he said the following. Check this out. He says, yes, it's true. I admire the fact that they're so vulnerable. Like they will talk about everything. They would share their pain and they would just tell each other everything, no restriction. Here comes the bomb. He goes, but I don't think, and I know that they're not able to deal with the aftershock of vulnerability. I'm like, oh fuck, hold on. Meaning that when you share something that you have the courage to share, but then do you have the capacity and the capability to deal with what you just heard, right? And so they didn't, because they would say to each other stuff like that in the heat of the moment. It's like, okay, and then alone they would start thinking about what they heard and the aftershock of it.
No way to process it,
dude. And now frustration rises, and in their mind they start building story, and then they started like acting cold, responding weird, and so the patterns and the behaviors came up because of the aftershock of what they were vulnerable about. So the point was, like, I'm like, bro, you're like, so I'm saying kids have a completely different perspective that is so close to truth, because as adults, we've created these pathways in our mind to make sense out of everything, and like the number of books that we hear, the number of people, and then for him to completely come and just make an observation, say, dude, he's 20, he's in college. He's like, I love the fact that they're vulnerable. They tell each other. But the aftershock effect, they both cannot deal with it. And that's why they're constantly like
powerful.
So power concept that was shared, and that's the kind of observation that Caden also has when he tell you that, listen, the trust was not fully there because I already knew. It's because they're so close to the truth. They're so close to the truth, and once they connect to that truth, game over. Yeah. And you can feel that this relationship is completely on another level. Like it's almost like a warrior brother relationship. Yeah. You got your son, you love him, you got but then there's also this aspects of this brother thing that I can have a walk and talk with Caden, and I can give myself permission to talk about everything.
Yeah. So here's what I heard you say. Warrior assists the man in connecting with the truth. The art and the science, but really the science of warrior, if we're doing the work, the science of warrior, when applied, allows us to connect with the truth.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's why it's not complicated. It's wake up warrior, right?
Yeah.
Like there was a Jeff who was there yesterday with you in the workshop. He was here on the podcast last night, and he said something. He said, a week after Warrior Week coming home, his wife kind of turned around and told him, he said, thank you for waking up us. And he kind of smiled, and then the wife turned down and say, yeah, I guess it is called Wake Up Warrior, right? And he shared that. I'm like, yeah, it's like you're the warrior. And once awaken, and then the rest of the like once warrior does the awakening through whatever, the condition, the setup, if you want, right? Then all warrior is a yes or no. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just to
Yeah.
say yes or no, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to show up for this event? Yes or no. If no, there's the power behind it, right? But there is no fucking maybe. Like, nobody likes you in the land of fucking maybe. Nobody. We get triggered. You get triggered. Everybody gets triggered in the land. In your business, like, in your business, it's a yes or no.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to fucking invest in a legacy in your future? I'm not. I'm not selling you a product and a benefit. That you're not understanding what we're talking about. We're talking about something that I care about deeply, which is legacy, right? I invest in my family. I invest in the future of my family. I'm passionate about this because I fucking live this thing. I'm talking about your business,
Yeah.
and we'll hear from you. But are you going to do this? Yes or no? Because I just fucking pour my heart out here, and you can see how committed I am, and we walk with committed people. Because if it's a no, then you must have a very powerful reason behind it.
Yep.
But if it's a no to put you in a land of maybe, if you don't have power behind it, like if it's maybe, then I cannot trust the maybe.
Yeah.
I can trust the no, and I can trust the yes.
And the man that says maybe doesn't trust himself.
No. And you do these. Talk to us about, because this is a great example. Talk to us about this no longer hobby of yours, but this racing. And I have to fucking put this on the record, and like the amount of courage that it takes to fucking do this. Talk about this desert racing experience, how it started, where you are today. Who are you in this world? The world needs to know, because we don't talk about this enough. And then talk about, when you talk about the partners that you put next to you, talk about if they're kind of fucking maybe kind of partners. And if and let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, great. So I grew up riding dirt bikes, and I worked in a motorcycle shop, Cycletown Yamaha in southern Utah, from 7th grade through my first year of college. So I'd been around motorsports, loved off-road racing. That's what I did during high school, middle school, high school, college. A lot of my married life, I was on a dirt bike. Anything with a motor in it. I love motorsports, and I love the off-road racing industry. And so 5 years ago, as a result of Warrior and being here and being challenged of what would be this big, hairy goal that'd just be way out there that you would love to accomplish in your life. And I put out this big, hairy goal. I remember at the Surf and Sand, I'm out there and I'm writing in my war map, my journal, I would love to start an off-road racing team. Sam, it was no more than 4 months that I was writing checks and building a car with our son Caden. He was 15 years old, somewhere around there. And I'm writing checks and I'm starting an off-road race team with Caden. And I remember driving down the freeway with Wendy, and we were thinking of a name for the off-road race team. And Wendy says, what about mobbing? Because Caden would go snowboarding with his friends, and they'd be going down the hill snowboarding, and they're like, oh, we're mobbing down the hill. And maybe you've heard of this word before. Mobbing. And so Wendy looked it up in the Urban Dictionary, and mobbing was in the Urban Dictionary, and the definition of mobbing was driving around at excessive speeds for no other reason than to have fun. I'm like, what? That's it. So mobbing racing stuck. We bought the URL. We got the Facebook, www.mobbinracing.com, Facebook. We do all these videos and fun stuff. So Caden and I built this car together. We did 4 races together, and Caden got really sick. So we ended up selling everything. And we race UTVs like we specifically race a Can-Am Maverick. We have a factory contract with Can-Am. So we sold everything. A year and a half or so goes by, and I decided to build another car. And my goal was to have a client. I'm in the financial services industry. My goal was to have a client that had never had this experience to sit in the car next to me and to race off-road. And so I started doing this, and we started winning. In fact, we won the world championship in 2017.
Shit.
Zach Cooper and I won the world championship. We started 110th.
Zach, you lucky fucking bastard.
We had an amazing experience. We started at 110th. We finished 4th overall, first in our class. We missed 3rd overall by 6 seconds. We're on top of the podium. We're standing on the car. We're popping the champagne bottles, the cork off, spraying it around. By the way, don't get champagne in your eyes. It stings.
Really? Oh, shit.
Oh, it hurts. You see those guys on TV
Yeah, he's like,
spraying that shit around? It burns like a mother.
Fuck.
And it's slippery. Almost fell off the damn race car. So I'm having this experience, but then because of the results of winning and doing well, and there's so much time and preparation and planning and prep and logistics and all this stuff, which I'm a planner.
Yeah.
I'm a planner at heart in my business. I applied those principles of planning to the off-road racing, and it's working.
Yes.
The last 2 years, we've finished every mile of every race. Last year, we took second overall in the championship, and Sam, this year, we took first overall in the championship and the Pro Unlimited Best in the Desert Series, UTV. We have factory sponsorship from Can-Am, BF Goodrich Tires, KMC Wheels. Wow. It's like this full-on race team. I incorporated it this year. It is a business with sponsors, and my challenge and opportunity is to continue to find the fun in it because it is a business. But I'm having a great time. It's an amazing experience. It's a passion of mine since a very young age. I have a picture of me on a dirt bike, and I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I wake up and I'm super passionate about, and I apply those lessons in preparation of going into an off-road race because, yeah, you're right. Garrett White was in the car with me 2 years ago. We raced from Las Vegas, Nevada to Reno, Nevada, 540 miles. It took us 12 and a half hours.
The fuck?
We are
nonstop
peeing through a tube. It is a condom catheter. They work really well. When you got to pee and you don't have to get out of the car because time is of the essence when you're racing a race like that. It's an incredible
throughout
experience.
the night, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Desert dust, visibility, like almost fucking zero, full speed. Fuck. Anyway, I needed to put a visual on that because I've seen the footages. I've seen a lot of the Warrior guys that has gone there. I'm gonna hesitate, but I'm coming. I'm not telling you when, but I do want to be a part of one of them. And but it's a commitment because, like I said, you're either yes or no. You can't be
there's no half.
You can't be a maybe kind of guy.
No, not in that.
You can't be nagging, Mike, my leg hurt. I have a cramp. It's like, dude, like you can't, right?
Just like in life, right? What's more serious than life? What's more serious than parenting our kids? What's more serious than our occupation or someone else's life, our own life?
Right.
We live in this land of maybe. It's no wonder shit gets fucked up.
It's
no wonder there's all this chaos and confusion and frustration. But I didn't see that until coming in, going to my pit, in Warrior, having this experience, and to start to differentiate between this land of yes and no and maybe.
Yes.
Number one, being aware of it, aware that I was doing that in my own life, and then to commit, ruthless commitment of a yes or a no. And I'm able to do that now because of the clarity and the commitment of doing the work on a daily basis.
Absolutely. You know, they say humility is a virtue, and absolutely, as you learn so much, and as you gain so much knowledge and wisdom, you just realize that there's so much that you don't know. It's like, and when that realization takes place, it's an exciting race to be on.
It's beautiful too,
dude. It's moment. You're going full speed for the joy of going fucking full speed. No other reason than that.
Yes.
So you're going full speed in life for the joy of gaining knowledge. No reason than that.
And we celebrate and appreciate along the way.
Yes.
I first heard Garrett say, "There's no finish line."
Yes.
Like, what do you mean there's no finish line? Like, we finish the race and we get a checkered flag, but then there's the next race. And then there's the next race. And living this challenge-based lifestyle in Warrior, which, again, 7 years being a Warrior, I've tested this 3 or 4 times in my life over the 7 years of, hey, I just want to slow down and enjoy this. The enjoyment comes in the pursuit.
Yes.
The enjoyment comes in going after something. Do I stop, celebrate, and appreciate along the way? Yes. But I'm constantly moving towards something that challenges me because it fulfills me the most and creates the most for those around me. That's why I live a challenge-based lifestyle that Warrior has taught me.
And that is beautifully said, because in that moment of joy is when you truly are receiving the gift. And if you receive it, then it's great. You can give it away. But if you block yourself from not receiving it, well, you have nothing to give away.
Yeah.
Like, you have the gift that you just received. You don't have it because you never received it, so you can't give it away. So in the moment of joys and our celebration, and those around us usually are close families in our unified field. That's where the gift gets transcended. That's where you look at your daughter, your son, and your wife, and you're proud of the way that you have led them because you've given yourself permission to receive, only to enjoy and give.
Yeah.
Often we may be in a place where we do receive gifts and we become selfish. We hold on to them, and but most of the time it's like fuck, man. And then this is the case for many guys coming into Warrior Week. Is like there's just this guilt and shame that blocks the receiving of any fucking gift. Mm-hmm. Sometimes as simple as thank you, And I had to work on that myself, not knowing, like, okay, what the fuck is happening? You came to me many times at, many events and Warrior Cons or many events, and you just give me a genuine thank you and a hug, and then I would go through the process, and then you would kind of stop me and say, no, like, I want you to fucking receive this, right? Which to me, it's everything because I put it in practice. I now do it to all the other guys. And at the end of each Warrior Week, I get these hugs, and it's not a quick hug, or it's not, hey man, I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. It's deeper than that because it's just a matter of 5 seconds. I have the 5 seconds rule, so I'm like, slow the fuck down, and selfishly receive. Because if fill it, bro. Because if you don't fill it, then like you're leaving this place with a cup that had the potential to be filled.
Yep.
But your whatever. And Garrett is like that too. Garrett still needs to work on that. Every time there's a thank you that comes towards him, he gives so much that every time there's a thank you that comes into him, he has this way to like change subject and make it about you. And it's like, no, bro, just receive it. So I've been having
Shut
the
the fuck
same,
up and receive it.
Same thing that he told me. I've been having it with him. And yesterday I thought about, there was this personal trainer from Montreal. She came in and visited us in California a couple of years ago. And she also taught me something that was really good. And I have put that, both what you showed me and what she showed me, I have put that into practice. And I'm sharing this so that you actually can do this. So do the 5-second rule or whatever you want, 10 seconds. Receive the thank yous. Don't just think about it as a courtesy thing. Just fucking receive it. Download it. The other thing she showed me, when you hug someone, right? I used to tap in the back, especially with guys. She goes, don't tap. Don't dismiss it. Just hug and then release.
Yeah.
I go, oh. So yesterday I sent a note to her thanking her because, it just reminded me of that. But those simple things allows you to receive.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy a full cup, right?
Yeah.
You can drink from it and you're like, yeah.
This celebration and appreciation, Sam, in my life, I do out of self-interest. I do it because it fulfills me. And when I'm fulfilled, I have more to offer to those around me. It creates momentum.
Yes.
I'm all about creating momentum and power to be able to assist and influence other people because it fulfills me and it fulfills them at the same time.
Absolutely.
So test it. Test this in your own life. Don't take our word for it.
I do want to bring a very important point, and I've said this many times, but I want to put it here because these get transcript, the audio lives. This is a digital asset. Digital asset, a witness of portion of your experience here. And one of the things I want to put on the record is that you have truly been the beacon of the Warriors Way in the past 7 years. And not only by practice, not only by showing up, not only by results that are working, that has brought harmony in your life, right? You work hard. You work with, like, you're a businessman. You work hard. To think that life is a perfect balance of 25% body being balanced in business is a fucking lie. There is a harmony in between it. We put a lot into business, but then we put equally the amount of leadership and certainty and confidence in the window of time that we have with our family. Is the time equal to the amount of time we spend at work? Fuck no. Because if we would have been, it wouldn't be you. It wouldn't be us. It's not us. Like there is a guy that matches that time. We simply need to get and fulfill a purpose in what we do. And what you do is extremely, extremely purposeful. I mean, it's created purpose for me. It created a mindset to understand that legacy matters. investment in a future for your family is an absolute must. And if you're not doing it, is because you're probably like me. You had your head in your fucking head asshole, and then you just need to pull it out. Once once you make the moves and understand that, your mind starts like opening up to. You're not a kid anymore. I'm telling you that, man. You know, a boy man that kind of takes the money and spends it and like But once you start putting the concept of legacy, your mind looks for structure and organization and ways to become better with your money, right? And again, I'm the example of it. I'm an infant in this, and so there's so much for me to learn, so much best practices to learn. But I do want to capture this in the next couple of years because that's what I want to pass on to Nikon at 13, 14, not for him to, you know, my mind, like part of me goes like, well, you know, when you're young, go work so you can learn the value of money. Okay, that's pretty old school, right? I get that. But there's so much more that they can learn at 13, 14, and they don't have to fucking wait to be fucking 42 to learn that, you know? About legacy, about like, you know, things like anything that comes with the idea of creating a financial freedom down the line, and yet at the same time make sure that you're a producer, right? Because you can easily get caught up into that and not producing, so it's like a false hope. Like, what are you doing? So what I want to talk about is the following: you've been a beacon over the Warriors because of the number of people that have came into Warrior Week, that have came into somewhere, somehow inside of this program because of you, because of your story. I've shared this with you many times. In fact, there was a period of time that I would almost call you like every 2 weeks, or I'd say, Mike, dude, this guy came in and it's like, man, I was sitting there and I was just watching Mike's story and it's fucking like, dude, like it was because of your story that they were coming. And still sharing this, guys resonating with the pain that's very similar to a lot of guys that are feeling that. I mean, like, there's a lot of hidden fucking, you know, pain that through these conversation, like kind of when we're knocking at the door and perhaps giving a permission for someone to do something about it. But I do want to bring, like, you know, more than 30 guys, 30 fucking families that just came in through Warrior Week because I was the witness. I opened the gate for them. And so many other guys that gone through the Warrior Book process. And up to now, you know, I get on conversation. Yeah, you know, I watched Mike's story. Mike's story. And so for you to receive that because of the work that you are doing, you're having an impact on so many more, not just your clients and not what you're teaching, including the impact you had on my life and understanding that, and continue to be a mentor in that area for me, which I don't look elsewhere, you know, but also to so many other men that saw this courage in you, and that's what they're replicating. They just want to access that courage, and they're giving themselves permission. Once they found it, wake up warrior, bro. Boom, the warrior is there, and like the only thing that they have to deal with is yes or no. That's it.
Yeah.
So I want to sincerely acknowledge that. And those of you that are listening to the podcast and you're actually one of those 30 or 100 plus guys that came into this program because of Mike, well, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. And so I truly wanted to acknowledge that. And as a witness of that in the past 6 years, I've seen that. So going back to that, if you are to built the fastest race car in the desert. Like a super, like what you're riding right now, times 20 the speed. And then if your intention was to cross the desert and from here, purse directly through the heart of a man sitting across the desert, coming in at the speed of a fucking light. And that car or that vehicle by itself would be a message that you would send right now digitally. What message would you have for a guy that's right now listening and that you want to put this in his heart? What would that be so that whoever's listening right now feels that impact?
Wow. You're not alone. You're not alone. And we live by a code at Warrior. And the code is to be real, to tell the truth. For me in my own life, I felt alone and on an island because I was lying to myself and I was lying to other people around me, those that I cared the most about. And so know that you're not alone, and know that by living by the code, the warrior's way, aka tell the fucking truth to yourself first and foremost. Stop telling yourself lies. Learn the warrior's way so you can start differentiating between yes and no and get out of the land of maybe, because the land of maybe is the lies. You're lying to yourself and you're lying to others, and that's the land of maybe. It's no wonder that you can't make a decision and that you're hesitant. But know that you're not alone in experiencing that frustration, that guilt, that shame, that land of maybe. Know that you're not alone. Know that there's a way for you to examine that, to look at that, to actually do something about it. There's an art and there's a science, and the science will guide you. The art is your ability of taking that and applying it in your life for you, but you're not alone, and that there is a way. And so have hope. Have hope and know I'm living proof of that, and I've literally seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of men experience this in their own life. And so have hope. Have hope, brother. Have hope that there is a possibility and a way for you to stop what is currently going on, or to take what is currently going on and increase it to a whole nother level of joy, and actually be on this pursuit of happiness in your life. And I'll tell you, I was raised in a religion. There's no religion that I know of, no other self-help that I know of that will assist you in this exact way. So, brother, you're not alone. Have hope and live in this land of yes and no that Coach Sam has been talking about.
Beautiful message. And if this sits in your heart and wants you to do something, your first step is to go to becomeaking.com. In that, you'll find the 7 pitfalls of a modern man. You'll get to educate yourself about where you may fall into one of those pit. Are you in it? Are you out of it? Or do you see it coming? And inside of that conversation, the action item is simple. Like, there's 3 paths here for you inside of Warrior: the Warrior's Way journey, an educational path; the King's journey, an experimental path; and also the Empire journey, which Mike is part of, which is this idea of proximity and quarterly gathering together and understanding and putting ourselves in the fucking juicer and under the microscope, which we all do. I did that. I remember I did that 2 quarters ago. I truly put myself in the juicer, the relationship that I had with my son, and I realized that inside of that, like, I was just delegating too much to the nanny, to the fucking soccer coach, to the CrossFit coach, to the music coach, to like all these fucking peoples were there, and they were taking the time, and it's not their fault. I was enabling that. And as a result of that realization, man, like, the nanny's no longer there, the music coach is not there, the language coach is not there. There's a lot of people that kind of left, some of them on their own, because energetically I put my feet on the ground, and some of them I managed to just cut off. And that has given me all this time now with my son. I take him to school every morning. I used to skip that and have somebody else, like all kind of fucked up shit that I wasn't seeing in that period, right? Because last year I was doing all this stuff, and then, it shifted towards, I'm busy in the morning, I'm doing this. So it has shifted my relationship, and that's what we do in these proximity programs, our program called Empire. We just take ourselves under examination every quarter, and we set these targets and we set these goals, these things that we want to do, and these things that we want to stop doing, or we want to stay away from. It's just very clear. We have a blueprint and we move forward. So find your path inside of that, whatever that is, becomeaking.com. Also, you can find transcript and audio and video of this podcast at warriorweeknow.com, and as well as on iTunes. I want to go to Mike and kind of get some references from Mike, where we can find Mike. And after that, we're going to bring it back and just close it down. So, Mike, where can we find you, both on your financial service businesses and as well as the racing part?
Yeah. Well, Sam, this has been a great experience for me. Thank you for having me on this show with you. I love you as a brother and a friend and as a mentor, and really appreciate my experience and time with you, and so look forward to the future, knowing that we have this relationship that we have together. If you want to
Thank
learn more about me and what I share on a daily basis and applying these lessons in your life, personally and professionally, especially around the topic of finance and money, go to Vault, VAULT, Vault AIS. AIS is number one asset, number one investment, number one strategy, vaultais.com. And I'm on social media. If you like the off-road racing, our son Caden produces our videos for
Oh,
us, our
nice.
documentaries. We have helicopter footage. We have in-car footage. It's a lot of fun. That's Mobbin Racing. Facebook is a great place for that. Mobbinracing.com, but Facebook. Michael G. Isom on Facebook also. I share a lot on there. And on the financial side of things, to be able to apply the Warrior's way of finance in your life, vaultais.com.
Beautiful. Mike, thanks for being here, and thank you for your kind words, both to me and to our audience. And, gentlemen, we will see you on the next episode. Until then, take care of yourself and each other.